The Martian sky still bled rust. Even 20 years after the Kolari sterilization barrage, the once thriving colonies of Mars lay entombed beneath layers of fused regolith and radiation-burnt alloy. No wind, no sound, just silence, and the ghosts of 20 million souls, vaporized in a single coordinated strike that marked the end of the First Galactic Accord. To the Kolari Empire, it was a strategic deterrent. To the Terran diaspora, it was genocide. To Commander Alara Miles, it was personal. She stood at the edge of the collapsed crater that had once been New Haifa Dome, her birthplace, and stared down into the blackened pit as if daring the past to crawl out and confront her. It didn't. It never did. Her exosuit's HUD flickered as atmospheric static increased. The radiation was rising, a sure sign another dust storm was forming on the other side of Valles Marineris. She had maybe 3 hours before her signal uplink would degrade beyond reach. "Alara," crackled a voice through her comms. "You're too far east. There's nothing left in Sector Theta." "That's where you're wrong, Jonas," she replied, descending the crater rim with careful boots. "They missed something. I found a thermal anomaly beneath the old Magrail tunnel. Kolari bombs sterilize surface organics, not deep-buried systems. And if the rumors about Project Hephaestus are true, we don't even know if that thing ever existed. You're chasing ghosts, Commander. Ghosts are all I have left." She switched off the channel. The tunnel entrance was half collapsed, hidden beneath slagged steel and rust glass that used to be a transport hub. With a push from her servo arm, she heaved aside a section of debris. The opening yawned wide, utter black, thick with ionized dust and Martian cold. Alara slid in without hesitation. Inside, her suit's lamps revealed warped tracks and emergency lighting strips long since dead. Every few meters, she passed human skeletons preserved in the thin atmosphere. Families, workers, children. The final train out of New Haifa Dome had never made it. She paused by a child's body. The small bones clutched a melted toy rover. "Rest easy," she whispered, and kept moving. After an hour of crawling through ruined infrastructure, she reached it. The anomaly pulsed faintly on her scanner, a pocket of warmth and low-frequency EM readings 30 meters below. She activated her bore drone and sent it ahead, watching the feed on her HUD. The tunnel opened into a forgotten chamber beneath the Magrail station. And there, half buried under collapsed support beams, was what she'd come for. A spherical vault, metallic and smooth, with unmistakable Terran Defense Force markings etched into the surface. Project Hephaestus classified. Her heart skipped. She rappelled down, landing with a crunch of disturbed dust. The vault was intact, scorched but sealed. Her suit's AI tried to interface. The handshake was old but functional. With a few authentication overrides, the sphere hissed open. Inside was a humanoid figure suspended in stasis. Male, early 40s by appearance, cybernetic implants laced along his skull and spine. A nameplate floated next to the pod. Dr. Harlan Voss, lead architect, Hephaestus Initiative. Alara gasped. Dr. Voss had vanished during the final days of the Martian War. Official reports claimed he died in the initial bombardment. But the pod's data confirmed otherwise. He'd been sealed away by his own team, deep beneath the surface, days before the sterilization. She initiated the revival sequence. "Command to Arclight Base," she said through her comms, reconnecting. "I found it. Project Hephaestus is real, and Voss is alive. Repeat, Voss is alive." Jonas's voice returned, stunned. "Say again, Alara? You heard me. Prep a medical evac. And get ready for a storm. We're bringing Mars back from the grave." The stasis chamber cracked open, releasing a puff of cryovapor. The man inside stirred. Dr. Harlan Voss gasped for air. His eyes, artificial and glowing faintly blue, locked with hers. "Are we winning?" he rasped. Alara gave him a grim smile. "Not yet, but you just tipped the scales." Above them, orbiting in geostationary silence, a Kolari patrol ship caught the surge of unauthorized comm traffic. Deep within its databanks, an ancient protocol activated, a ghost of the Empire's most paranoid subroutines. Martian protocol breach detected. Subject, Project Hephaestus, status compromised. Enacting contingency, extermination order Delta Red. The stars above Mars shifted as the ship aligned its weapons. Below, Alara helped Voss out of the pod. His legs trembled, but he stood. "I wasn't supposed to wake up," he muttered. "Not unless." He trailed off as her helmet visor retracted, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and a jaw set in iron. "Unless humanity was desperate," he finished. Elara nodded. "We are." And the Martian wind began to howl again. The storm howled like a god in mourning. By the time Elara and Dr. Voss reached the surface, the Martian dust storm was already clawing at the ruins with hurricane fury. Her suit's servos fought every step, joints creaking under the pressure. They had barely 30 minutes before visibility dropped to 0. "Your oxygen levels?" she asked, dragging him toward the ridge where her stealth rover lay camouflaged beneath thermal nets. "Stabilizing," Voss grunted. His voice had the rasp of a man who hadn't spoken in decades, and technically he hadn't. "Lungs feel like they're full of powdered glass. That normal after stasis?" "Better than the alternative," she said grimly, shoving him into the rover and slamming the hatch. Once sealed, the interior decontamination systems whirred to life. Elara yanked off her helmet, her black hair matted to her scalp with sweat. Across from her, Voss collapsed into a crash seat and stared blankly at the red haze outside the viewport. "I dreamed in there," he said suddenly. Elara raised an eyebrow as she booted the rover's NAV system. "Dreamed what?" He turned to her, eyes still glowing faintly blue. "Fire. Endless fire. And something inside it calling me back." Elara didn't answer. There were things even science couldn't explain, like how a man preserved in cryostasis could remember a fire that hadn't happened yet. The NAV system pinged. A targeting alert. She froze. Kolari-class railgun satellite locked. "Shit!" She grabbed the controls and punched the rover into full acceleration. "We've been spotted." From orbit, the sky cracked. A lance of white-hot plasma split the atmosphere, searing the ridge where they'd been parked seconds earlier. Shockwaves pounded the terrain as a second shot hammered down, obliterating the crater's edge in a column of fire and ash. "Kolari extermination protocol," Voss said, gripping the edge of his seat. "I knew they'd buried something like this into orbit, but it's still active after all these years?" "They sterilized Mars." "They never left it," Elara growled. "Just posted their damn sentinels in the dark and waited." "Then we go west," Voss said, suddenly resolute. "Olympus Mons." Elara frowned. "Why there?" His cybernetic eye adjusted. "Because Project Hephaestus wasn't just me. I was the architect. But the core, the forge, was buried inside the mountain." "You mean Olympus was a front?" He nodded. "A weapons facility. The last one humanity built before Mars fell." She gritted her teeth. "And you think it still works?" "I designed it to outlast the end of civilization. If it's still intact, it holds the only thing that might make the Kolari regret ever touching this planet." Elara looked at him for a long moment, then turned the rover northwest and accelerated into the blinding storm. Olympus Mons towered on the horizon like a slumbering god, its base shrouded in storms and broken satellites. The approach took 12 hours, 12 hours of dodging orbital fire, sensor sweeps, and half-buried Kolari hunter drones that had apparently been asleep until now. The closer they got, the more signs they found: scorch marks, plasma vitrification, melted crawler husks. Something had happened here after the initial bombardment. "Elara," Voss said quietly, leaning forward as their headlights swept across a ruined convoy of Terran tanks. "Those are our own units. 143rd Armored Division. I recognize the serials." She blinked. "There wasn't supposed to be resistance after the bombing. Records said we lost Mars in 20 minutes. "They lied," Voss said, voice like lead. "Someone kept fighting. All the way here. At the base of Olympus Mons, they found it, a massive hangar entrance buried beneath centuries of sand and debris. The TDF logo was still visible, faded but defiant." Elara activated her ground-penetrating scanner. Interior structures intact. Powers minimal but not dead. Voss grinned. "Told you. I don't design things to die easy." They exited the rover and approached the entrance on foot. Elara planted a charge and blew a path through the sealed gates. Dust rolled outward, revealing a vast chamber lit by flickering emergency lights and ancient battle scars. Scorch marks. Blood. Even here, someone had made a last stand. A pile of Kolari bones near the door confirmed it hadn't been one-sided. Elara stepped past them, eyes scanning for movement. "We're not alone." I know, Voss said. There's something else here. I feel it. They followed the corridors downward. Each level revealed more devastation and more defenses. Automated turrets had long since run dry of ammunition, and collapsed bulkheads showed signs of Kalari plasma weapons having breached from the outside. But nothing moved, until they reached the control nexus. A holographic shimmer appeared, projecting the face of a woman in a Terran commander's uniform, crisply rendered, eerily preserved. Access granted, Dr. Harlan Voss, the AI intoned. Welcome back to Forge One. Elara blinked. Your voice. It's not mine, Voss whispered. That's Admiral Jin. She was my liaison on the project. Died during the evacuation. Your AI copied her? More than that. Jin volunteered. She became the AI when the evacuation failed. That's her ghost watching over the forge. The AI flickered, then focused on Elara. Unknown biometric. Identify. Elara stepped forward. Commander Elara Miles. Terran Resistance Fleet. The AI paused. Confirmed. Genetic match, Colonel Arlen Miles. Unit, Martian Defense Corps Kia. Elara's jaw tightened. My father. The AI inclined its head. Your bloodline returns to the forge. You may proceed. The blast doors opened. Inside they found it. A chamber pulsing with dormant energy. Rows of humanoid warframes, sleek, angular, obsidian black, lined the walls. Each was 10 feet tall, neural-linked, and forged from gravitic alloy designed to withstand atmospheric entry. In the center stood a massive machine, still cold but intact. Voss placed his hand on its core. This is the Crucible. It prints war. Armor, weapons, soldiers, nanoforge-based, with combat AI tailored to match pilot psychology. The Kolari never knew it existed. They can't fight what they don't understand. And the warframes? Elara asked. The first generation of humanity's response to genocide, Voss said. Hephaestus wasn't just a shelter, it was a seed. A light turned green. Crucible core reactivating. Forge sequence initiated. Elara turned toward the warframes as lights rippled across their armor. One of them, sleek, angular, and human-like, stepped forward on clanking limbs, eyes igniting with sapphire light. And behind them, buried in the mountain's bowels, something else stirred. Something not of Terran design. Something that had waited for them. The Crucible roared. For the first time in 20 years, the forges of Olympus Mons awoke in fire and fury. Molten alloy hissed through channels carved in diamond-tempered steel. Robotic arms danced like ghosts of forgotten engineers, assembling the war machines of a dead civilization. And at the center of it all stood Commander Elara Miles, jaw clenched, heart pounding. The awakened warframe stepped from its cradle, a towering figure of obsidian and starlight. Its chest glowed with pulsing arcs of antimatter shielding. Twin blades folded from its forearms like wings of execution. A designation lit up on its plating. Chimera, 01, pilot required. Voss stared in awe. Gods. She's alive. She chose you. Elara turned to him. What do you mean she? He walked forward, placing a palm on the warframe's knee. The Chimera series were the only sentient integrated models. The AI inside isn't just reactive, it learns, bonds, even remembers. You don't command her. You become her. Elara's spine prickled. This wasn't a weapons program, she muttered. It was an ascension project. Voss looked up at her. That's why the Kolari feared us. Not because we had weapons. Because we were about to evolve beyond war itself. She stepped toward the Chimera, 01, drawn by something deeper than logic, an ancestral pull, a resonance. Her fingers brushed its interface port. Instantly the room blurred. Her mind fell through the floor of reality. She stood in a memory, not hers, but someone's. A battlefield beneath a black sun. Warframes battling Kolari giants in an open sky. Cities burning. A child screaming. Then silence. And a voice. Elara Miles. Blood of Mars. Child of the crater. She turned. The Chimera stood before her, human-sized now, face cloaked in a metal veil, eyes glowing with ancient sorrow. You are not your father's war. You are his vengeance. Elara tried to speak, but her voice was gone. You must choose, the Chimera said, to become wrath or to become salvation. Then the world shattered. She awoke, gasping, in the real world. Voss was already moving, tapping control panels as Crucible Diagnostics scrolled past. "You linked," he said, not looking up. "It accepted you." She nodded, breath shallow. "It spoke." Voss froze. "What did it say?" "That I have to choose," she said. "Wrath or salvation." He hesitated. Then, quietly, "The original pilots, they never made it out. They merged so deeply with the Chimera units, we lost them. I wasn't just building weapons, I was building new beings. Evolution through grief. Do you regret it?" He didn't answer. Instead, he tapped a final sequence into the console. The Crucible's forge chamber rumbled as 5 more Chimera units emerged from their dormant sockets. "Then I hope," Elara said, eyes locked on the warframes. They died angry. High orbit, Kolari Superdreadnought, Viathuan Krex. Admiral Zarkith slithered through the Hall of Stars, his armored tail clicking against obsidian deck plating. His 3 jaws hung slightly open in disgust. "Martian activity confirmed," hissed his second mind, a neural parasite wrapped around his spine. "Crucible ignition. Hephaestus protocol breached." "Impossible," Zarkith growled. "Mars is dead." The parasite twitched. "Not dead. Buried. Now unburied." The human machine stirs. Zarkith turned to his war council, a collection of generals, scientists, and puppet vassals from subjugated worlds. "Mobilize the Black Talon fleets. Mars is not to be captured. It is to be erased. Again. Even if that means breaking the Accords?" asked one Viscari admiral, nervously adjusting his breathing mask. "The Accords," Zarkith snarled, "were a leash we tied around ourselves after the fire. We never should have spared the Earth." A pause. Then he whispered, "The martyrs of Mars have awakened. This time, we finish the species. Terra Orbit, Resistance Command Ship, TSV Remembrance." Captain Jonas Wren stared at the tactical holo, mouth agape. "You're telling me Mars just turned on?" Lieutenant Eames nodded. "Elara Miles initiated a broadcast 3 hours ago. Unencrypted. She found Project Hephaestus. And she's alive." "Hell's teeth," Jonas muttered. "And Voss?" "Confirmed. Biometrics match. He's on board. Sir, we have visual from the surface." The feed came through grainy, distorted by Martian storms, but it was enough. Chimera 01 stood atop a hangar's outer deck, eyes glowing like a fallen god. Behind it, the Crucible spewed fire as more warframes emerged. The forge had become a beacon, a challenge to the stars. Jonas whispered, "They're not hiding anymore. Mars surface, Crucible forge, Olympus Mons." Voss knelt before the main reactor. Its glow pulsed like a heart waking from hibernation. He pressed a command node into its surface, fingers trembling. "What are you doing?" Elara asked. "Sending the signal," he said. "To the other forges. The Earthborn colonies. The deep vaults under Europa. Even the hidden cells in the belt. Humanity spread like embers after Mars burned. But they all remember. And now they remember why." He stood. "All across the system, sleeping forges are going to light up. Resistance cells are going to rise. Every world the Kolari ever touched, every culture they erased, is going to see this fire and choose sides." Elara's comms chirped. A message, wideband, across known space. "To all Terran blood, listen well. Mars is not dead. It was never dead. It waited. And now it burns." She looked at Voss. "You're starting a war." "No," he said. "I'm finishing one." Meanwhile, beneath Olympus Mons, buried deeper than even the Crucible knew, in a chamber sealed in xenoalloy and ancient code, something alien stirred. It had been there long before the Kolari, long before humans reached Mars. A seed, a prison, a consciousness carved from dark matter and time. And now the forge's reactivation had awakened it. A single eye opened in the dark. It saw war. It saw vengeance. It saw a purpose. The Martian night was on fire. Chimera 01 tore across the dust-blasted plains of Elysium Planitia, a titan of war cloaked in kinetic shielding and rage. With Elara bonded at its core, the warframe moved like a beast unleashed, grace and death forged into one. Above them, the sky roiled with fire. Kolari atmospheric dropcraft pierced the clouds like falling daggers, streaming plasma contrails as the first wave of the extermination fleet descended. Inside the Chimera, Elara's consciousness blurred with machine code. Her thoughts were steel. Her pulse synced with reactor hums. Her memories were shared with a mind that had once fought in battles Alara had only read about in encrypted records sealed by the Martian Defense Corps. Target lock, Kolari Vanguard, the Chimera whispered into her neural stream. 3 carriers. 17 drop cruisers. Estimated biomass, 1,000 soldiers. Authorization? Alara smiled. Burn them. The Chimera leapt skyward, twin jump thrusters igniting with solar fury. Midair, Alara twisted the warframe's limbs, activating its orbital intercept cannons. Twin lances of antimatter carved arcs into the atmosphere. The first Kolari drop cruiser was torn in half before it could even release its cargo. On the ground, the rest of the newly awakened Chimera units had deployed from the Crucible and engaged in formation, moving with eerie synchronicity. They fought without fear, without hesitation, and without mercy. Voss stood at the central command node deep within Olympus Mons, watching the battle unfold on 100 split-screen views. The Crucible's AI, Admiral Jien's ghost, was routing targeting data and fleet telemetry directly into his mind through an outdated, but still functional neural shunt. A war was blooming, and for the first time in 2 decades, humanity wasn't losing. Admiral Jien, he said quietly, activate deep bore array. The AI shimmered, confirming, orbital defense cannon Nemesis Lance is non-operational. You intend to compensate with Martian crust disruptors? Exactly. Warning, the seismic discharge will destabilize this quadrant of the mountain. Let it. This isn't just a fight, Voss said. It's a message. Above Mars, the Kolari flagship Viathuan Krex loomed like a planetary cancer. Its hull shimmered with bioalloy scales and psychic nullifiers. Within its war chambers, Admiral Zarkith paced, staring at a hologram of the Crucible's unfolding wrath. The humans have built gods, he hissed. The parasite on his spine writhed. No, they became them. Zarkith slammed a clawed hand onto the comm rune. Deploy the Morning Shard. Bring me the Martian woman alive. Which one? The Wraith in the machine. Surface, Olympus Mons secondary crater. Chimera, 01 landed with a thunderous quake, slamming both fists into the crust. Alara rose within it, lungs heaving in perfect rhythm with its reactor pulse. A Kolari brute, 12 feet tall, armored in living bone, charged her with a plasma spear. She sidestepped. With surgical grace, Chimera, 01 caught the spear, twisted, and decapitated the brute with a single upward slash. Blood hissed into the dust. Behind her, 2 more Chimera units, designation Cerberus and Helix, tag-teamed a swarm of Kolari skirmishers, pinning them against the remains of an old TDF walker and incinerating them with graviton coils. The battlefield became a song, brutal, beautiful, and written in red. Alara's comms chimed. Commander, Voss said, his voice sharp. We have a deeper problem. Define deeper. I think we woke up something beneath the Crucible, something not ours. Before she could respond, the ground beneath her trembled and split. A shockwave tore through the plains as Olympus Mons itself howled. Not mechanically, not tectonically, sentiently. From a chasm opening near the ancient lava tubes, a shape emerged. It wasn't Kolari. It wasn't human. It was wrong. A slithering mass of obsidian plates and fractured light. Geometry that shifted when not looked at directly. Limbs that were both arms and wings and smoke. And from its chest, a single lidless eye glowing with ancient hunger. The Crucible's sensors went into panic mode. Unidentified biosignature. Origin unknown. Classification unknown. Alara stared. Voss, what am I looking at? I don't know, he said. But it predates everything. Maybe even Mars itself. The entity moved. Its body tore the air around it, warping time like heat over a dying star. 1 Chimera unit, designation Echo, rushed forward to engage. It never reached it. Echo blinked out of existence mid-stride. Not destroyed. Erased. Gone. Like it had never been forged. High orbit, Resistance Command Ship, TSV Remembrance. Jonas Ren watched the Martian data feed spiral into madness. This isn't a battle, he whispered. It's a convergence. Lieutenant Eames paled. Sir, we're receiving signals from Europa. Titan. Even Proxima. What kind of signals? Crucible echoes. Forge worlds lighting up. Pilots merging with dormant chimeras. all across the colonies, all of them responding to Mars. Jonas swallowed. It's a chain reaction. Mars Crucible Core. Voss stood before the deep core interface, the readouts now flickering with increasingly erratic behavior. Even the Crucible AI was struggling to maintain coherence. This thing we woke, it's feeding off psychic energy, Voss murmured. It was buried under Olympus to contain it, not hide it. Admiral Jien's hologram glitched, her face twisted in a moment of static. Seed of Nihil. Entity, YTZRN. Warning. All Chimera units at risk of corruption. Voss's blood ran cold. YTZRN, he echoed. You've got to be kidding me. The Kolari hadn't sterilized Mars to break humanity. They'd done it to stop this thing from waking. And they had failed. Surface, near the rift. Elara backed away from the void entity, every instinct screaming. Fall back, she barked to the remaining chimeras. Form perimeter. No direct engagement. But the chimera, 01 resisted. Elara felt it, deep in her bones. The warframe was drawn to the thing, as if responding to a gravity beyond the physical. Her interface buzzed with confusion, with recognition. Entity YTZRN, ancient. Origin Martian core. Classification, architect of the first flame. What the hell does that mean? She snapped. The chimera answered. I was built in its image. At that moment, the morning shard arrived. A Kolari superweapon shaped like a cathedral of bones pierced the Martian sky and hovered above Olympus Mons. Massive chains of void light lashed out from its prow, spearing into the surface around the rift. Zarkatha's voice echoed across the frequency spectrum. Humans, you've danced too long in fire. Now you will drown in shadow. The chains struck the entity, YTZRN, and for the briefest moment it screamed. A sound like a billion extinct suns dying at once. Elara's vision blurred. The chimera wept, and Elara realized they hadn't built the chimera to fight the Kolari. They'd built them to fight this, the god beneath the mountain. The void screamed. A billion voices speaking no language, and every language at once. Elara clutched her head. Even inside the chimera, 01 cockpit, its psychic shielding groaned like it might fracture. The other chimera units staggered, their synthetic minds reeling as the chains from the morning shard coiled around the ancient thing rising from the Martian crust. YTZRN writhed. The chains burned through its fleshless form, boiling geometry and collapsing dimensions in bursts of paradox. But it wasn't dying. It was remembering. Inside Chimera, 01, Elara's vision shattered into memory fragments. Mars, not red, but green and golden. Cities of glass and light floating above rivers of starlight. A time before humanity. Before the Kolari. Before war. And then came the fall. A war among gods. The chimeras, not machines but forged avatars, fighting to seal something monstrous beneath Olympus Mons. Elara clutched the chimera's neural spine. You're not just a weapon, she whispered. You're a tombstone. The AI responded, voice raw with pain. I am the lock. YTZRN is the key. The crucible was never meant to forge war. It was meant to contain it. The morning shard fired again. A column of obsidian light, fused with null energy, slammed into YTZRN. The entity convulsed, then began changing. It folded into itself, compacting, shrinking, a chrysalis of dark matter forming around its core. Elara's sensors screamed warnings. Voss patched through. It's metamorphosing. The Kolari are forcing it to stabilize. They want to harness it. Of course they do, she spat. They sterilized Mars to stop it from awakening. But now that it's awake, why kill a god when you can own it? She turned her chimera to the sky. The morning shard hovered like a blasphemous crown above the mountain. Not on my watch. High orbit, resistance ship, TSV Remembrance. Captain Jonas Run paced the CIC as distress signals poured in. Enemy fleet numbers? He barked. 4 carrier groups. 75 Kolari warships, and the morning shard has anchored, Lieutenant Eames said. Mars is under full siege. Jonas clenched his fists. We don't have the firepower to punch through that. No, but we're not alone, Eames said. Sir, we've just received pings from Europa, Ceres, Titan, and Pluto. Jonas turned. They're answering Mars? She nodded. The crucibles are lighting up. Across the Sol system, old weapons woke. Titan's subglacial forges began to rumble. Europa's cryovaults released their sealed pilots, sleeping in stasis since the fall of Mars. On Ceres, resistance engineers plugged neural cores into machines too dangerous to operate alone. They activated anyway. And on Earth, inside a bunker beneath Old Geneva, a single figure stepped into an ancient warframe painted Martian red. One by one, humanity's ghosts put their armor back on. Mars, Olympus Mons. Alara charged toward the Morning Shard, flanked by 3 Chimera units, Cerberus, Helix, and Ashfall. Helix, she said, cut their ground chains. The unit diverged, limbs transforming into plasma blades. In a blink, it was on the nearest chain pylon, carving through alien alloy with fury only grief can teach. Cerberus, run defense. Ashfall's pilot, a grizzled, silent man known only as Sark, spoke for the first time. We're gonna die doing this. Alara didn't look back. Then let's make it count. They launched skyward, 4 meteors of rage. Inside the Morning Shard, Admiral Zarkith smiled. The humans send their machines. Let them. We wield the god now. But even as he said it, the chrysalis below the ship cracked. The entity inside, Whitey's Arn, was no longer writhing. It was watching. Chains clinked. Then snapped. The god screamed again, only now it was not in pain. It was in hunger. Zarkith recoiled. What is it doing? The neural parasite coiled on his spine shrieked. It is not bound. It is birthing. Whitey's Arn rose anew changed. It had adopted structure, form, and a face. Not alien. Not monstrous. A human face. Alara's face. Inside Chimera, 01, Alara staggered. Her systems flared with instability. Her skin burned with stolen memory. Voss's voice cracked through static. It's copying you. Whitey's Arn. Its psychic resonance latched onto your mind when you bonded with the Chimera. It's shaping itself into your image. A divine reflection. Then I'll kill myself, she growled, before I let it wear my face. No. No. Alara, listen. You're the only one it recognizes. That's your leverage. It sees you as kin. Maybe more. She blinked. You want me to talk to it? I want you to command it. The chimeras breached the Morning Shard. Alara ripped through its biohull with twin void blades, slicing into the command sanctum. Zarkith turned, uncoiling, plasma tendrils rising. You should have stayed buried, he hissed. She hurled a plasma disk into his skull. Wrong empire, she said. She moved to the control node and linked her neural interface to the shard's psychic leashes. Whitey's Arn, hovering below, turned its new face upward. Her face. Whitey's Arn, she whispered, trembling. You are not a god. The entity tilted its head. You are memory. You are wrath. You are fear, but you are mine. For one moment, silence. Then a thought echoed, not in her ears, but in the roots of her mind. Then use me. Across Mars and the stars beyond, every crucible heard the call. Every chimera froze, and then began to sing. Not audibly, but in a resonance of machine thought and human memory. A harmonic link thousands of years old reconnected. One mind, Alara's, stood at the center. She was now pilot to every chimera that ever lived, and every one yet to awaken. The Morning Shard cracked apart. Whitey's Arn rose above it, no longer alien. A titanic mirror of Alara, fused in void light armor, bearing the Martian crest on its chest. The Kolari fleet fired in unison, desperate, terrified. But it was too late. Mars had birthed a god. And this time, it was human. The sky over Mars burned like the surface of a star. Kolari cruisers spiraled down in flame, torn apart by forces they couldn't begin to understand. Bolts of void light carved orbital pathways, each blast a death knell to an empire that had never known fear, until now. At the heart of it all hovered Alara Whitey's Arn, the god-forged reflection, a thing not born of flesh, but memory. Of war. Of loss. It hovered above Olympus Mons like a wrathful angel, limbs of liquid starlight and armor forged from grief. And behind it, rising from the dust-choked plains, came the legion of the Crucibles. Chimera units from every corner of the Sol system, awakened, synchronized, and unified, descended on Mars in a silent rain of vengeance. Alara stood in the shattered command sanctum of the Morning Shard, her body still plugged into the neural throne, lips cracked, eyes distant. Sweat poured down her brow. Blood leaked from her nose. Too much, even for her. Her voice rasped through the comms. Status? Voss's voice came through, grim but steady. YT's Arn is obeying you. Or something close to it. We've never seen Chimera harmonics this stable. It's you, Alara. It recognizes you. I don't care if it worships me or fears me, she said. I just need it to finish the job. Then issue the order. She looked down at Mars, scorched, cracked, but alive. The world they'd tried to erase. The world they had created. Alara to all chimeras. Target every Kolari ship in orbit. Prioritize command craft. Leave no survivors. YT's Arn responded first. The reflection raised a single hand. And Mars itself answered. Beneath the planet's surface, crucible reactors once meant for terraforming rerouted their remaining charge into ancient accelerators. Massive magnetic loops, coiled under regolith and forgotten mountains, spun up particles as old as the solar wind. In orbit, Kolari ships paused, confused. And then Mars fired. Not weapons. The planet itself. A planetary-scale railgun pulse, born from the scars of Olympus Mons, ripped through space, carving through the Kolari command ship like a thread through silk. It detonated in silence. Zarkith died screaming into void. The rest of the Resistance fleet arrived moments later. Ships from Europa, Ceres, Luna, even Sol's outer defense wall, once thought abandoned. They didn't come to rescue Mars. They came to join her. Captain Jonas Wren stood on the deck of the Remembrance, tears in his eyes as chimera after chimera descended in perfect formation. Never seen anything like this, he whispered. No one has, sir, said Eames. We're witnessing humanity's second genesis. No, he said. This is vengeance. Made divine. Surface, Elysium crater. Kolari ground forces routed in panic, stumbling over the bones of their own drop cruisers. Chimera units stalked through the ruins like metal phantoms, cutting down those who resisted, binding those who surrendered. Sark, piloting Chimera Ashfall, crushed a Kolari scout pod beneath one massive boot. No mercy? No survivors, came Alara's voice. Just checking. In orbit, the last Kolari vessels tried to retreat, warping engines stuttering under the interference of YT's Arn's presence. One by one, Chimera strike teams disabled their drives. No ship escaped. One ship, a medical frigate, attempted to signal surrender. Alara paused. In her mind, she saw flashes of the children buried under Martian ice. The farmers suffocated in their greenhouses. The scientists turned to dust by sterilization waves. Then her sister. Dead. Gone. Nothing left but ash and memory. She nodded once. The Chimera units obliterated the frigate mid-transmission. Mercy had died on Mars. Crucible Core, Olympus Mons. Voss stood before the central data relay. Admiral Jian's AI, now fully stabilized, flickered into clarity. I had hoped we would never see this day, she said. I know, Voss replied. But you built for it. You have unleashed something we may not be able to control. She's not just a pilot anymore, Voss said. She's a symbol. And symbols are what win wars. Jian's image faded, leaving only a pulsing Martian crest. Alara disconnected from the neural throne. Her body was wrecked, veins blackened by psychic overdrive, skin blistered, bones aching. The cost of control. YT's Arn hovered outside the broken hull of the Morning Shard, watching her. She walked to the edge, standing in the wind of the upper atmosphere, face to face with the god she'd birthed. You still hear me? A rumble. Not sound, understanding. I'm going to need you. A beat. Then I am yours. 2 months later, Sol Council Assembly. Earth. Luna. Europa. Mars. The surviving leaders of humanity's fractured colonies gathered in silence. Alara stood before them, armor cracked, Chimera unit behind her like a towering monument. You all abandoned Mars, she said. But Mars didn't die. No one spoke. We bled for this soil. We buried our families beneath its ice. We died screaming alone, for a cause none of you would lift a hand to defend. She stepped forward. But now, the stars know what happens when you burn our dead and call it peace. She raised a fist. The Chimera behind her mimicked the gesture. So here's my proposal, she said. We don't beg for seats at your table. She turned. We build our own throne. 5 years later, edge of Galactic core. The Kolari Empire was no more. Its world stood empty, glass deserts and cratered moons, warnings written in silence. But new threats loomed. New empires rising from distant nebulae. Whispered legends of dark gods beyond known space. In the cold, endless dark, a single fleet drifted forward. At its head, a Martian flagship forged from crucible alloys, bearing the red crest of Olympus Mons. Inside, a throne. Elara sat upon it, her body fused with Chimera, 01, her mind linked with White Izarn, her soul the anchor for a species reborn. Behind her marched the Legion. Human, machine, and something else. Not divine, not alien, Martian, and in her voice echoed every name the Kolari had tried to erase. We remember the ashes. We are the fire.